Welcome back to the Ask Allison podcast. I'm Allison McElroy, a certified fundraising executive located in Northwest Arkansas. I love helping people reach big goals with my version of strong encouragement. I mix my heart, my humor, and my experience to lift you up. I am so glad you are listening again today because you could listen to literally anything, but you have chosen to be here to listen to me and my guest today. And I am thrilled to be here today because today's guest, we go way back. I think I say that every episode, but I really mean it this time.
Way back.
I really mean it. Yes. So I am introducing my friend Amy McGovern, and she's going to tell us more about her in a little bit, but I'm going to go ahead and tell you how we know each other. Way back when, kiddies, back in the day, when I got my first job at Open Avenues here in Rogers, it was then called Adult Development Center. So some of you from before the times will remember Adult Development Center. We were located on Dixieland Road, and I had just moved here. The year was 1995.
Did we have to say that part?
Yeah. I had moved here in late 94 and got my job at Adult Development Center in 95. And one of the most precious people in the world to me, my coworker, Lorraine Miller, worked there. And we got to work together for many years before she ended up going to work at Arkansas Rehab. But she had a daughter, a lovely daughter named Amy. And so I have known Amy since that far back. And I don't even know how old you were at that time, but she was just a babe.
Yeah. It just occurred to me, though, that you've known me with all three of my last names.
Yes, I have.
So not many people can say that. So.
Amy Rose, which I always add of Texas on there because of that. Yeah.
Did you know?
Amy Rose, and then Amy Anderson, and now Amy McGovern.
Yes.
So we've covered that. So you might know one of those Amy's.
Same person.
Same person.
Same personality. It's not split personality. It's a promise.
Okay. So we're going to start off. I'm going to ask you, what's something that is just making you joyful now or bringing you joy right now?
The weather.
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh. It's a beautiful day.
Yes.
And I get to wear spring clothes, and it just is the sun and the light breeze and the pollen. Oh, wait, maybe not that part.
No, our cars are dusted in yellow or that mustard color, whatever it. Yeah.
But no, the weather today especially is bringing me all sorts of joy.
Okay.
So
good.
Yeah.
Good. It's bringing me joy too. And I feel good when I walk out. But the thing in Arkansas is you never know what it's going to bring and how many seasons you get in one day. But I'm glad to know that because today is actually one of those warm days. We're in the 80s today here in Rogers, Arkansas. Okay, so I'm going to just start with, why don't you tell us a little bit about you? And one thing I want you to touch on is, did you start in fundraising? Which is a question that we all like to ask and then laugh about, because most of us don't start in fundraising, do we?
No. Well, I actually, and I don't know if you ever knew this about me, my very first development type role, I was a student worker in the development office at Hendrix College. So I got a little taste of development work back in the, mid-90s, and lots of, licking of envelopes and stamps and return mail and, all that.
And stuffing and licking.
Yes, all the things. And so that was really my first taste, no pun intended, of, fundraising. So it actually did start in fundraising, but then once I graduated from Hendrix, I actually started working in their Office of Admission, eventually became their Director of Admission, got married somewhere in there, and moved to San Antonio, worked for a private preparatory school doing admissions. So my conversations with families went from, what kind of AP scores does your son have to, is your son potty trained? So, it's just kind of a little shift there. And then my husband at the time joined the Foreign Service, and so life literally went across the world. We lived in 4 different countries over the span of 10 years. I was fortunate enough to work at all the embassies where we lived. And so I got had some amazing experiences, none of which were in fundraising, but some amazing that I wouldn't trade the world for. And then moved back to Northwest Arkansas once we divorced, and started working at another school because I thought I wanted to kind of get back into that world, working for a school, and didn't get my ideal job. I just got a admin assistant type position, but I thought I'll get my foot in the door and see what happens. And sure enough, their advancement team expanded, and so they knew my background with admissions, and that gave me a little more taste of development work and fundraising, and hosting a big fundraising gala and all of that. And then while I wasn't looking for my current position, I was happy where I was, but a former boss of mine actually reached out to me and said that there was going to be this opportunity in Northwest Arkansas, and she immediately thought of me because of being from Northwest Arkansas, being a lifelong Methodist, and that's with the Methodist Foundation for Arkansas. So I've been with them about 5 years, and I know,
already been
isn't that crazy?
years.
It's crazy.
It is crazy.
So no, I did not originally start in development work or fundraising, but
that is, I mean, you did get your toe in it, and you probably were oblivious, thinking this could be where I end up someday. You were just doing what you needed to do at the moment.
for sure,
Yeah.
for sure.
When you said the 90s, I immediately thought of that trend that's going on right now. Mom, what were you like in the 90s?
Oh, right. Yeah.
I'd give up forever to touch you. I've heard the Goo Goo Dolls more
So many times.
in the last 2 weeks than in the last 15 years. But anyway, tell us a little bit about the Methodist Foundation for Arkansas, because when you first got the job, of course, that's when you told me.
Right.
But I want people to understand what they do for Arkansas, for Methodists, and for beyond Methodists. Yeah.
Well, the Methodist Foundation for Arkansas, we are a nonprofit. We were established and chartered back in 1963 in Little Rock, and have been in Little Rock ever since. And then, as we already kind of talked about 5 years ago or 6 years ago, the board decided to open an office in Northwest Arkansas. And so I have been that person for the last 5 years and have loved it. But they really wanted to have a bigger presence here in the area. And the mission of the foundation is to establish and manage charitable funds to strengthen and expand Methodist ministries across the state. So that's our mission. So everything that we do, that's our goal. But it really has evolved over the last 60 plus years. And yes, we work with Methodist churches, and we have endowments that we will work with and grow so they can use the funds that they're investing and the returns off of those funds to do whatever mission work
and
that
that's
they're doing.
The congregations, the different congregations.
Yes. So we have, exactly. And so we have churches that are already our clients. And so, part of my main goal opening this office was, of course, to establish those relationships and to continue those relationships. But also, so many churches have heard of the foundation, but they don't really know what we do. And so to just kind of visit those churches and let them know, because a lot of churches may have a CD here or there that's not really getting them any, it's safe, but it's not making any money for them, and just realizing, making them realize, what opportunities there are for that. We also offer a number of programs that benefit congregations, or even, within the community, even with nonprofits. We had like a grant writing program that we did. We had, we're going to have a lawyers conference, which we've had in Little Rock for a number of years, but we're doing our first Northwest Arkansas one coming up in just a couple of weeks in April. So looking forward to that. So we offer a lot of different programs and learning opportunities for professional development for pastors or laity, or like I said, with nonprofits. And most recently, because everything is going very well with the foundation, we are able to have a thriving grants program. So we are able to, last year we gave over $2.1 million in grants. That's just grants alone. And that's not just for Methodist churches or institutions.
This is why I want y'all to listen right here. This is the part.
We, our grant committee has funding priorities, and we know that churches do a lot, and they do a lot of good work, but there's only so much they can do.
Right.
And so there's so many great nonprofits around the state, but particularly in Northwest Arkansas, that their mission and what they do aligns with one of our funding priorities. And so that was one of my big objectives too, whenever I first got this position, was to figure out which nonprofits in the area we could partner with, that we would make great partnerships. So
it's like an outreach for the Methodist Church, because the Methodist Foundation has these funds. And so why not use them to continue outreach in organizations that align with Foundation's principles?
And I tell nonprofits, and because we have Methodist in our name, and of course you would assume that you have to be Methodist, and you don't. I mean, obviously we do work with Methodist organizations and churches, but for nonprofits, you don't even have to be religiously affiliated. If your mission aligns with one of our funding priorities, which, if you look at our website, we have 5 or 6 funding priorities, and they're the big ones, poverty and food insecurities and diversity, so there's just so many out there that, and so many organizations that we really are able to partner with.
What is that website? Just tell them real quick while we're on it so that they can look. I'm sure they've already stopped listening and they're going to go.
I'm sure. Yeah, I have no doubt.
Because they're going to want to know, do I fit in the priorities? So what is the website?
So it's Methodist Foundation of Arkansas.org.
Okay. Okay, good. Yep. But that was a big eye-opener for me, and that was when I started thinking of so many of our organizations in this area do align with those priorities.
Yep.
And I think there was one. Did y'all end up getting to help with that backpack thing that Samaritan's has at Arvest Ballpark?
Yes.
I always felt like that was a good one. And there's just so many others. You've aligned with in the last 5 years.
Yes. Yeah. And it's been great. It really, Allison really was you were one of my first contacts whenever I got back into this world, just to kind of see what I needed to do. And then there's a number of organizations that you put me in touch with. But yeah, Samaritan Community Center. We are a sponsor for the Backpacks for Kids. We've given them grants. Actually, for their snack packs program, they've been awarded some grant funding as well. So, and that's the other thing too that I tell organizations is, we have our grant program, but we also, in addition, have these sponsorship opportunities. So many nonprofits have to have some sort of event or gala or golf tournament or backpacks or whatever that have sponsorship opportunities, and I always encourage them to send those to me as well, because we kind of have a different stash of money for that, and that's another way that we can support and partner with more organizations.
And don't assume, just even if you don't fit, go ahead or if you think you don't fit, go ahead and turn it into Amy, and then she can talk it through, or say, wait, this program doesn't work, but did I see that you mentioned you've got this program over here? Because it really might line up. Let's talk about that. Right. So I encourage you to take a look and submit for sure. To get to know.
I will say with our nonprofit grant program, that's kind of evolved just because we've gotten more and more interest, which is what we wanted, to reach more organizations. But because of that, we now have 2 deadlines during the year for the nonprofits. For Methodist, it's organizations, it's a different process. But for nonprofits that don't have a Methodist affiliation, we have 2 deadlines for grant applications. And the next one's coming up at the end of May. So May 30th, 31st, right? They have 31 days in May.
I think so.
Yeah, count your knuckles.
Yeah. Count my knuckles.
Whatever the last day in May.
31st. It's the 31st.
And then November is the next one, November 30th, I know for sure. So those are the 2 deadlines for nonprofit grants. But I am happy to visit with you. We would love to do a site visit too, to see what you got going on and see different ways that we might be able to work with you.
So as development, director of development here in Northwest Arkansas, you're partnering, you're trying to meet more nonprofits that align with your initiatives and pillars that you support, but also you're trying to reach out to the Methodist congregations in the area to show them how if we all put our funds together, they can get a bigger bang for their buck and help their congregation members, also their congregation, like their churches fund. So it's kind of like a community foundation for Methodist churches.
Yes. And I always tell, when you say get your biggest bang for your buck, I always use that when I'm talking to churches, because the fees that, anybody that's going to do investments, you're going to be charged a fee. And our fees are very competitive. But what we do with our fees is what is a little unique. So the fees are not going to pay my bonus, because I don't get a bonus. It's not paying stockholders. The fees do, pay, all of our administrative costs, but anything above and beyond that is reinvested. And so the funds that are made off of those investments go into the grant program. So it really is.
You really are helping outside of, so you sign up for one reason, which might be a congregation. Your heart says, I want to set something up because I'm a Methodist and this is my life. But the extra bonus is that it also helps other great causes.
I mean, it could come back to you in the form of a grant or, a scholarship to go to some sort of training. So
even Amy needs connections, y'all, just like the rest of us.
Exactly right.
Yeah. And so what do you love most about it? I mean, to me, like you said, when she thought of your name, and then when you told me, this is what I'm going to be doing, I just thought, well, this couldn't be more perfect.
Yeah.
A perfect match for Amy and the Methodist Foundation. But what's your favorite thing? Like, what do you love most about your job?
Oh, there's so many things. I'm an office of one right now, so I get to dabble in all the things. So I get to not only go visit the churches, but I plan all the events and do all the logistics for that, which I really enjoy. I get to do our Planning a Legacy presentation, which is our estate planning, legacy giving type program, and the grants. I get to work with the nonprofits and figure out who might be a good. So I really get to. I feel like I have the best job of all foundation, because I get to do all of that and great. I have great support in Little Rock. So when the numbers get really big, and that's not my forte, we have our finance group.
Yeah, why is that the directors of development? I mean, I'm speaking for myself here. We are all about raising it and the cheer and the joy, but when it comes to actual numbers, I really need some help with it.
Right. And that's why we have, CFOs.
That's right.
But I would also say too that it's like all of my worlds from all of my past has come together. It's like full circle with this position. So yes, from Northwest Arkansas. So I have I've reconnected with so many people from growing up, or my dad, was an attorney. So I've met so many people that know dad or mom who's worked in the nonprofit world. So it's just been fun to make those connections. And then of course with my Methodist roots and being so involved as a youth and even as an adult, as a counselor, people that I went to church camp with are now pastors. And so, I get to work with them.
Yes, because we have a mutual friend from our past.
That's right. And
Jay Clark, who met me, I think we met our senior years of high school. He was at Walnut Ridge, I was at Valley View. We might have met right before that, but we did meet that year because we both got some award from the DAR something in that area. And then almost the first week of college at Arkansas State, we met. And if I could have another brother, I think he might be it.
Agreed.
He is just he's crazier than me.
Yeah.
But we are pretty crazy. And then you put us together, it's just trouble.
No,
but it's
good trouble.
Good trouble.
Yes.
Anyway, so love you, Jay Clark, from your two favorite A's.
That's right.
Yeah.
But even so, I was going to mention too, as far as kind of all my worlds colliding, even when I was recruiting for Hendricks, there was somebody, he was actually a recruiter for A-State, and he's now a pastor at one of the local Methodist churches. And I saw him and I was like, what? I mean, just crazy. My old Girl Scout camp director. I've reconnected with her because she does nonprofit work. I mean, it's just crazy town.
It is crazy.
But I love it. I
do too.
It's been so much fun.
I will go back, way back. She also has kind of a Razorback history as well.
That's right.
Tell them about your special little bug that you drove in high school and the horn and
all the things. So, I was about to turn 16 and my parents were trying to figure out what kind of car I was going to get. And we had a 1974 Volkswagen Bug. And I used to hate this car because it had Razorbacks all over it, like Razorback decals running all over it. The horn played the fight song. Dad would drop me off at Leverett Elementary, play that fight song. Everybody would stop playing Foursquare, jump rope, whatever they were doing, turn around, laugh, whatever. So I hated that car. And then I was about to turn 16 and we're trying to, figure that out. And Dad's like, well, we could, get the Razorbug. His name was Rufus the Razorbug. So we can get the Razorbug, going again. He had been kind of sidelined for a while, but so we got him repainted. Dad rehogged him. And then let me tell you, loved that car because I went to Fayetteville High School, which is, I'd have to drive through the U of A campus to get to school every morning. These college guys would like wave and honk and I'd play the fight song for you.
Yes. You were it with the other words and letters in front of it. You were what people were. So if you didn't know Amy, but you remember the Razorbug, now you know.
That's right.
It was Amy and her dad's
Rufus.
Rufus the Razorbug.
Yeah.
And I mean, I just remember those stories from back then too. So we had to bring that in as well. Yeah. Well, now let's shift and talk about like our jobs.
Okay.
We're also kind of a therapy podcast. I don't know if you figured out that, but we try to be there for our people and I can go from cheery disposition to passionate and, I'm so frustrated. So one of the first things I've got on this segment is what is something people often misunderstand about fundraising?
I think, when I was thinking about this, I feel like people just think fundraising is all about asking for money, period.
Right.
That's all we do is ask for money. And it's really not. It's about building those relationships and really putting and inviting people into something that's meaningful and something that they're passionate about. And, and as I was thinking about the whole, my career path, even though it wasn't all in fundraising, every single position I held was about relationship building and listening and helping people find what they're passionate about. I mean, every single job I've had. And so, and that really is what fundraising is about. It's, listening. Yes, you're going to do some talking, but you want to listen to what the donor is passionate about, what they really want from a nonprofit and, what they really want to support. Really connecting values to the impact of what that nonprofit does, and then just really helping that donor feel part of the mission,
right?
And not necessarily pressure to fund it, but just to be passionate and be a cheerleader, be a supporter, because it's important. Yes, of course, money is very important, but also is getting the word out about an organization and all the good that they're doing. So I think that that's probably the biggest.
Because it rarely ever starts with the money. It usually starts with the passion or the connection or the relationship, the knowledge, just sharing the issue with someone and saying, we're trying to figure this out. And they join in and want to help figure it out too. And then they realize, oh, well, I can be a part of this too. So it rarely ever starts with the money.
Right.
And most board members, I've tried to explain to them over and over that a lot of times it's, we're saying we want your contacts or connect us, help connect the dots or whatever. It really is literally about sharing the message of what we're doing.
Right.
And just making sure people know that you're passionate about something. And the money stuff tends to come later anyway. But just like you were talking about, all the ways everything overlapped in your career, the relationships you started as a, young person And then now as you're a grown-up, adulting, the relationship is the common denominator on almost everything.
Yeah.
And that is you're exactly right. That's more what fundraising is. And people in our role is just trying to connect the dots to find out who's passionate about what and what lights somebody up that they want to be a part of. And the best thing is once you figure out, if you're an organization that is feeding the hungry and you have been trying to put that square peg in a round hole with someone who loves dolphins,
right,
and wants to save all the dolphins.
Yes.
Once you figure out that
that's not going to work.
Yeah, it's not going to work. And the only thing you have to say to that person is, oh my goodness, that is a wonderful cause. And then you bless and release them into the wild to go save the dolphins. But before they go, you say, hey, is there anyone in your circle that is passionate about food insecurity? Because if so, would you be willing to bring them for a tour?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that leads to more relationships. So it's really, you're absolutely right. And I could talk about it all the live long day.
And I think too that, and especially in our nonprofit part of the world, and I know we're going to talk about AFP in a little bit, but we know so many of the nonprofits in the area. And so your nonprofit may not be saving those dolphins, but you probably know somebody that is involved in that. And to make that connection, to kind of guide them to help find their passion and make those connections, as well as asking them, hey, do you know somebody that might be passionate about?
And you're right. We will talk about it more in just a little bit about that. The connection to each other in this area helps us on so many different levels as well. What's one thing you wish nonprofits did better?
I think really being consistent and showing their impact in a clear human way. Yes, statistics are great, and people want to hear those numbers, but by telling a story and putting a name to that story is going to make so much more of a bigger impact.
Yeah.
And, don't assume that your donors know the impact.
Right.
I mean,
because I think when we're in the trenches and we are doing the work, we do tend to assume that they get exactly what we're doing or how, that the services we're providing. We just assume they understand all the levels and layers. But, until you hear somebody from single parent scholarship, talk about how this
changed their life,
how it changed their life. But then they had 2 kids and it changed their life. And now their lives are on a different trajectory, all because their mom or dad got a scholarship.
Right.
And so many times that's from a story or a testimonial. Yeah. And I think you're right. I think we get caught up in thinking it's got to be this beautiful graphic with a pie chart and and some percentages and statistics. But
and I think it is important. And I actually just today I got a thank you note from Saving Grace. That's another organization that you introduced me to, a nonprofit in the area. But we've been a sponsor at their Butterflies and Blooms the last 5 years. And not only have the event itself is amazing, but everything that they do has a human touch to it and has an example and puts a face to the impact that our sponsorship has made. And so, I immediately got a phone call from a board member, but then I've also gotten a couple of written thank you notes. And today's thank you note has a picture of one of their residents, and right next to her picture it says she got her driver's license, a new car, and is furthering her education. How great is that? That is what the Methodist Foundation sponsorship is going towards. Like this they call all of their ladies Grace. So that's they're Saving Grace, but all of their ladies are referred to as Grace. So and it says, please join us in praying for Grace during this season of her journey, and to be shown an actual living, breathing example of what the impact that, our table sponsorship, has made.
She just opened that, and it had a picture of Grace.
Sorry, should have explained that.
Taped in there. And then the sweet note, but then also they've handwritten that these are the things that have happened just since the luncheon, probably.
Which was just a couple of weeks ago. Yeah.
Excuse me. But yeah, they do a great job with how they thank people. And you're right about the human. It's all handwritten. It doesn't look like everybody got the same note.
No, I don't think so at all. And it's just important that, to understand that people really connect to that, and that, because of you, this happened, because, this specific person is furthering her education because of what you have donated. And whether that is monetary, whether that's volunteering, there's so many different ways to give to an organization too, but to I think for nonprofits to really keep at the forefront of their mind to make those connections and to really make it more human, because that's what we're going to react to, pull on those heartstrings for sure.
Right. And the statistics and numbers are wonderful too. And there's going to be the CFO financial people that are going to want to see it that way. But most of us want to just say, were we able to send those kids to bed without being hungry? Great. Tell me that story. I want to hear all about that. So that's great. Okay. Now we've got people deciding to work for nonprofits as development director, fundraisers every day. So what would your advice be to someone who's new to fundraising or new in our field?
Well, the same advice.
Run, Forrest, run. Just kidding. Just kidding. That's not what she was going to say.
No, it was not. That was
because we love it.
That's right.
Yeah.
No, but, when I first got into this, I met with you initially, and I met with Missy Kincaid, also big in the nonprofit world. And both of you gave me the same advice, which was join AFP. And I'd never heard of it because I'd never really been in this world before, at least this in depth. So, I looked into it, and I talked to my boss in Little Rock and explained. And AFP is, the Association of Fundraising Professionals, and especially at the Methodist Foundation, we fundraise, but we don't fundraise. We make our money by investing. So, we don't have to have a lot of the same fundraising goals and things that nonprofits typically do. So whenever I brought this up, why do you need to be a part of this? And Lynn, who's the vice president of development in Little Rock, we started about the same time, and she joined the Arkansas chapter, and then I joined the Northwest Arkansas chapter, and we both have gotten so much out of it. And I think for me personally, it's been the networking, just because I wanted to meet these nonprofits and figure out what nonprofits are in Northwest Arkansas. I'm from here, but I hadn't lived here in a number of years, and some have remained the same. So, and there's new ones. So really, making those connections and getting the word out about who we are and how we can, hopefully partner and help. So,
and the beauty of that too was you were also learning, maybe not the fundraising 101 stuff, but the relationship, the stewardship, all the things you need to connect with the churches and the nonprofits.
Sure.
And then there's the whole knowledge about planned giving. And we have tracks that fit all different things. So I know there has been some good that you've learned, and there's been some things you've brought to the table for the rest of us to learn too. So that is, I would say that too. When I first got my job, the man that was mentoring the board that was about to hire me, he said, it's the wave of the future. Because at that time, I can't even believe all this time. It didn't seem like yesterday. But at that time, universities and hospitals were the only ones that had development teams or development people.
Yeah.
And so for a small human services organization like ADC, who had no budget, and the reason they were trying to figure out what to do is because they were so reliant on federal and state funding for people with disabilities that they were literally trying to figure out, what are we going to do? Because tomorrow this funding could be gone, which happens all the time in that field. And he was saying, y'all need to bite the bullet and hire a person. And pretty soon, most organizations will have development people. And of course,
sure enough,
they were all just looking like, what? And we can't afford to pay attention right now. And you're telling us we're going to hire somebody, and where's that money going to come?
Right.
I mean, it was a whole thing.
Yeah.
And sure enough, I got started. I've said this before. I sat by the phone the first 4 to 6 months waiting for board meeting to see if they decided to go ahead and keep me or cut me. It was awful, but most of the board felt like if we cut her now, we'll just be that further behind. We need to just press on and keep going, because it literally takes, if you're starting from scratch and you're listening right now and you've started an organization or you're just now starting your fundraising program, it takes 3 to 5 years just to build those relationships and break even. Like, your goal is break even.
Yeah.
And to make a profit, give yourself 3 to 5 years. That's exactly what he told them. And I think our third year was when we finally inched over into the past break even, and it was hard. There's nothing easy about it, but he said that. And then he said AFP, she needs to be in Rotary and AFP. And so back then, it wasn't even called AFP. That's how old I am. It was, back then it was called NSFRE.
You just joined when you were like 5.
Yeah. And so they've rebranded, and the Association of Fundraising Professionals is the perfect name for it now. But it is what taught me. It was before we had a chapter here in Northwest Arkansas, and that was all I had, was to go, internet had just started. And so, to get the stuff in the mail mostly at that time.
Sure.
And read or go to classes or whatever. It was really what taught me what I was doing, and that it was a real profession. Because I think a lot of people at that time was still thinking bake sales and car washes.
Yeah.
You just go out and you raise a little bit of money. And
again, when asking for money.
Yeah. When I went to my first conference and saw all the professionals and thought, this is a real profession that I didn't even know was out there.
Right.
And here I am
in it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and I think, too, for new professionals in this field, joining the local AFP chapter, it does give you that community as well, that you're not, especially, I'm an office of one. And so, and same for me, as far as, it took me a few years to start bringing in new accounts, but that's because I started those relationships 3 years ago or 5 years ago, and now those accounts are coming in. And it does take time, but it's so nice to have the AFP family that you can reach out to, that and ask questions, or they have your same, they know what you're going through. So just that connection. So
I've got, when we get to there down here is the question I almost answered right now. Well, I'll talk about it down there, but. How would you say fundraising has changed over the last few years? Do you think it's changed at all?
Well, I do. I think it's changed quite a bit, especially from when I was a student worker at Hendricks, and where it really was more campaign focused and more direct mail focused, and those stamps that we licked, and really organization centered, as opposed to more of. It used to be, here's what we need, not making that connection of, these are the people that, here are the stories that the people that you're impacting, but rather, here's what ADC needs, and then somewhat, also just kind of a one-way communication with those direct mail pieces. Every once in a while, a phone-a-thon, or, you can pick up the phone, and now, technology is just out of, it's crazy, because
it is.
Everyone has a cell phone, so you can pretty much get in touch with them whenever. Of course, and texting. So many people appreciate getting contacted by text. Of course, social media. All of these are ways that organizations can further their story and their mission, and just get the word out about who they are, and who in the community that they're serving. So, it really is going from, transactional to the more relationships that we've talked about, and really building on those relationships. And then the more human storytelling as opposed to, an institutional voice of, here's what we need. And also just moving from the feeling of obligation to invitation. So not making someone feel like you have to donate, right. This is your alma mater, you have to donate because that's what you do. But really inviting them into your organization and, inviting them for a tour, inviting them to, meet with some of the people that are really impacted, going to Backpacks for Kids and handing out those backpacks and really inviting donors to be a part of that. And that's what's they'll figure out that that's, what they're passionate about and what they'll want to give to.
One thing I thought of that's a little bit different, it's still, y'all have heard me do my speech about events, right and left and upside down and sideways and all the things. But I did hear from one organization that said that they know, events or that the return on investment is not as strong in the relationship building and going to coffee with someone, but they figured out that the people tend to want an event. It puts them more at ease. Mm-hmm. And so they have started having smaller, more intimate, purposeful events that aren't the red carpet with, the wine and the cheese and the perfect chicken dinner with the
is there such a thing
with the $1 million video and all that. That they're doing some smaller events just to get the face time with the donors for the relationship building, because it's really hard to say, like, want to meet for coffee, because then everybody's like, what are they wanting to talk to me about?
Sure.
Yeah. It takes the awkwardness out of them. So they started doing some smaller, purposeful, low key, not a large expense, just to get to see their people.
Yeah.
And that's something that's a little different from back in the day when you could just say, not everything can be solved by an event. Just go to coffee with somebody and you can think about how much more you can raise with a conversation. And that's still true.
Right.
But they were seeing that trend. So that's a trend that I've noticed. And one of my organizations I work with has started having some smaller classes, and we've had 2 now. And like 20-something people have come.
Yeah.
And guess what? I'm getting to visit with people that I haven't seen in forever because they needed what we were offering in this class. Yeah. So anyway, that's just one thing that I've noticed has changed and may shift a little bit. But I still don't say go out and throw a gala or a golf tournament just because... It's because, you don't need to do the big ones. These are like small with a cookie and a punch.
Well, and
nobody has to have a tablecloth or...
That's so true. And as you were saying that, it reminded me of an organization that we've been a part of through sponsorships. Their big event, but then they've invited smaller groups to it's Magdalene Serenity House in Fayetteville, and so they have a house to tour, and they have residents there, and they invited a smaller group just to learn, hear from their board and their development, and to do a tour, and the ladies who live in these houses are living their life, so they're coming in and out. They'll stop and say hey and introduce themselves, and that it is a smaller group, and it is impactful.
And that's the relationship building, because then they're seeing it firsthand, hearing a story, but then also being able to picture, this is what the organization looks like and how it runs and works.
Yeah.
That's very, very good.
And they were, they invited at least the people in my little tour group. I mean, there were people that have been partners with them, but they had some judges that have worked with some of the ladies, and just people that have had a reason for that organization, have been involved, and so it was good. And then there were people that have heard about them but have never really known.
And that kind of reminds me of this method that there was a wonderful, crazy good consultant leader back in the old days of AFP named Terry Axelrod. And I don't think that you can still Google and get the method that she came up with. It was called the Benavon method.
Okay.
And you can still Google it and get the basics of it. But basically it was bring people for tours. And then that's where I got that bless and release after the tour. And this, you keep everybody on so that no one stays longer than a certain amount of time. And you cover all the bases and you make the connection. And then you say, is this what you're passionate about? And if they say yes, then you say, how do you want to plug in? How can, and if they said, no, I really love dolphins,
Right.
then they would say, that's you. Are there 4 other people you would bring for a tour that would be passionate about this? And you just keep doing these tours on a regular basis. Anyway, look it up. It was a great, it's a great way to get things started. But that made me think of that.
Yeah.
And because that small group there at Magdalene's Serenity House, that's a great way to continue to keep people coming in the door to see what
they're doing. And they're expanding. They bought that other property there. So now they have a graduation house, basically, that the ladies who've graduated out of their program have another step before they go. It's
love it.
Yeah. So
love it. So do you have a meaningful or memorable success story since you've been at the Methodist Foundation or any time in your career? Your best ones.
A meaningful one is pretty recent and still pretty, I don't want to say painful, but it meaningful. But there is when I first started this job, my boss was like, okay, you need to meet with this man who lives in Ozark, lifelong Methodist.
Yay, Ozark. That's where my husband's from.
Lifelong Methodist, was mayor of Ozark 3 different terms. His name is Vernon McDaniel.
Oh.
And he wrote for the local paper. He worked at the little museum. He was a teacher. He taught at College of the Ozarks. And anyway, but single, never married, never had kids. But he had opened a number of accounts because we do like charitable gift annuities and donor advised funds and things like that for individuals. I did mention that earlier, but and so he had a number of annuities with us, and he was like, you just need to go meet him. And so I, went to pick him up. He was in his 90s. He's in his 90s. And he lived in this duplex. Like, by looking at him and how he lives, you would not have any idea that he was so charitable. No clue. And we immediately formed a very sweet relationship. And, every quarter or so I'd go and meet up, and we'd always go to the same Italian restaurant. He'd always get spaghetti and meatballs.
Yeah. That was right there in Ozark.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know, right.
And he loved the rolls, and we always made sure we got an extra, helping right before we got our to-go boxes.
I mean,
love it. Yeah. Love it. So anyway, and he was so proud of Ozark. And, one time he just showed me around. We took the whole afternoon. Well, I went to church with him, and then he just showed me around all the highlights of Ozark, which if you haven't spent much time, it's got some beautiful highlights.
It does.
Anyway, yeah.
You're listening. Yes. It's Jerry and Charlotte.
Yeah. So anyway, but every year he would have a disbursement, from one of his accounts, and he always sent it to us and said, from an IRA. Then he would send it to us and say, y'all do with it whatever you feel is best. I trust you. And so, Methodist Family Health might get it that year. We put it towards our Hope Scholarship one year, which helps low-income students go to college. Ozark Mission Project. So just, different things that he was passionate about that he supported, but he knew that we knew where it would be most beneficial.
Right.
Well, Vernon did pass away at the end of 25, and one of his annuities, the payout went to Ozark United Methodist Church, where he had gone since his whole life.
Yeah.
And he had a number of annuities, but they received a pretty nice gift from him. And I just yesterday got a phone call from the pastor there, and she was like, we really want to set up an endowment in Vernon's honor at the foundation. And, really, he meant so much to this community, so much to this church. And we know that he loved the foundation so much that, this is what we want to do. And so I'm going to, head to Ozark and, visit with them about, the different options of what they can do. But, that was just yesterday. And, Vernon really was a very special man. And so he just loved Ozark.
And so he gave and he gave and he gave, and he was in service and he gave and he gave. And now he's going to keep giving and keep giving. And they are going to join him in that by doing this.
Yeah.
Well, that's a good one. I did get a little teary there just for a second. And now I can't wait to talk to my in-laws about, do y'all know Vernon? And just,
they will.
He
walked everywhere. I mean, at the age of 90, whatever, he was playing tennis.
Oh,
he could run circles around me. This man was amazing.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, I love that story. Love it. And it can happen to you. I promise, out there listening, It can happen to you. These are the kind of stories. We had a lady. So the man that was mentoring the board at ADC, he said she needs to get in Rotary. She needs to get in AFP. She also needs to be a part of the Chamber of Commerce. And she needs to get on every committee in that chamber. So I did. I did everything he said. One of them was, back then the chamber had the blue coat committee. And that was kind of like Fayetteville probably has the purple coat. Anyway, we'd show up at the ribbon cuttings or at the business after hours, and we would greet in our blue coats or our blue outfits. And there was this wonderful lady named Martha Rose. And she was Lutheran. Sorry, Methodist Foundation. She was Lutheran. But she was a character, just a character. And the more you talk to her, the more you realize you didn't want to cross Martha, and she was a character.
Yeah.
And, she mentioned one time wanting to know more about ADC. I took her for a tour, told her all about it. And then years went by. I had less time to be a blue coat and did other committees. And then when I started having kids, I wasn't able to go to as many things at all. And years went by. We saw each other a couple of times. It was so good to see you. And, hug, and she hadn't been feeling well and had some health issues. And then a couple of years after that, she passed away. Well, next thing we know, we got a call from the Lutherans to tell us that she had left ADC as one of her organizations. And so her name is in the new building in Open Avenues. It was enough that it was able to name something in the new building. And that's one of my stories that I tell people. The relationships are the key. And you just never know. You never know. And it can be at the chamber. It can be at Rotary. It can be at AFP. It can be at your church. It can be wherever you are building relationships. It all leads to someone who's passionate about something in their heart, or they are so passionate about you that they want to be a part of whatever you're passionate about.
And
so we didn't say earlier when we talked about AFP that Amy, she went on the fast track. She got in AFP, and then now 5 years later, she's the president of our local chapter.
They saw "sucker" written on my head.
I was, I had been part of AFP since 1942, back in the day. And so I had done this. I had been on the board in the early days, done several offices, then was president, then took a little back seat for a while my kids were little, and then got back into it as communications and did some more offices and did my board stint. So I was stepping away from the board for another little break. And next thing I know, here she is, president. So what's that been like, serving as the AFP Northwest Arkansas president? Because it's not an easy task.
It's not, but the way that the structure is, it really is a 3-year commitment to where you're president-elect, then you're president, then you're past president. And so, and it's great because obviously as president-elect, you're working hand in hand with the current president, and really, so that was helpful.
Yeah.
And I hope I'm doing the same to my president-elect. We'll see. So it's been good. It's been exciting, and we have a good board, and with AFP, and I don't think we've mentioned this, but so our AFP chapter is turning 25 this year. And so Allison was one of the key people to get our chapter a chapter, because it was just the one chapter, right, in Little Rock.
And I don't know what year they started, but we all knew in those early years, probably around 1997, 98, there was a lady named Janet Cater, and she was trying so hard to get it started, but organizations around here couldn't figure out how they were going to pay for those dues and all that. But she never gave up. We organized it and called ourselves something else without dues and stuff. We just met, but she kept on and kept on. And finally, it was Cindy Webb and a few others that said, we need to either, or get off the pot.
Right.
We need to get this going. Yeah. Like we need.
And I'm so glad y'all did.
And so Cindy Webb led us through the process of coming together. But yeah, I was one of the first board members, and because I had been I had been in AFP so much before. Right. It was like I knew we needed it, and I knew that our chapter would be our chapter in, the international realm of AFP, because I knew we're go-getters, and we weren't going to settle for anything than the top stars and the all that. So you're welcome.
Yeah, thank you.
That.
Thank you.
For giving you
so really, it's easy because you've done everything for me. My forefathers and mothers,
yes,
have helped my road.
Yes,
but we are, we're 182 members now. Wow, isn't that great?
Oh, that is awesome.
Yeah, and we just got notification that we're 5-star gold again, which there's different criteria you have to make to get these various accreditations, or not accreditations, but designations.
Milestones, designations,
And 5-star gold is the tippity top. And we just found out that we are one of the few that have gotten that. And that's something that we have gotten in,
so many years. But I would meet chapters, and still do, from other parts, and that's not their big. They don't push all that.
Yeah.
But I'm so glad we do.
Oh yeah.
My passion was always be the cause, and that helped us get one of those stars. So I was always pushing, and I explained my testimonial every time, and I'll explain it again today. It's important for fundraisers because of the relationships, but I remember colleagues deciding whether or not they were going to come to the educational program that day based on what the topic was. And in my mind, I had joined. My organization had invested that money. And so I was going no matter if it was about something I already knew about or something I didn't even know what they were talking about.
Right.
I knew I needed to go because one of the biggest opportunities would happen at who you get to sit by. And so we'd be sitting there, and I'd think, I don't even know if I even need this lesson today. But I might get seated next to somebody from the University of Arkansas, like Clay Edwards or Sandy Edwards or Mark Power or Missy Kincaid.
Yeah.
And next thing I know, I barely say, well, I was wondering, do you think it would be possible if our small organization, and I would come home with a whole blueprint of, well, here's how you could do it. Even though we have a marketing department and we have a plan giving department and we have all these departments, but you're a one-man show. This is how you can do it. And I would think, so the topic was fantastic, and I might have learned a little bit, but I got to sit beside Missy Kincaid or Clay Edwards or Sandy Edwards or Mark Power and get Joe Ucolano was another one. Go home with a whole thing of, Joe's big thing. He was in planned giving at the university. So he would say, well, just go, this is what you could do at Open Avenues and have your own little planned giving, no budget.
Yeah.
Really? Thanks, Joe. So that is the importance. And I don't know if you have a particular story of why it's important for fundraisers to be a part of it.
Well, I already talked about the networking part and just kind of having that family of people who know what you're going through.
It is a therapy.
It
is a type of therapy. Yeah.
But we do try to have sessions. So we have every other month, we have a 2-hour session or 2 sessions, depending on what we do, but programming that really focus on real life issues that we're dealing with. We just had a session on advocacy and the importance of that, especially in today's,
what's okay, what's not okay, lobbying, the government,
how
all
important
that.
it is, for all nonprofits. And so, we really do try to, have sessions that are going to be worthwhile to anybody that's in the nonprofit world. And so, but I think, that, and really our yes, there's a membership fee for global, which is kind of the big overarching organization, but then each chapter has their own chapter dues, and our chapter dues are still minimal compared to many other chapters. And we're adamant about that, to keeping it low so we can offer that. And we do have scholarships. We have a number of scholarships for those organizations or individuals that may not be able to pay for the membership fee. We don't want
if it's an individual membership fee, it's a chunk of change. And then there's small organization, large organization. Most people fit in the small organization category or individual before they do large. But the scholarships, there's a favorite scholarship I know of for membership called the Allison McElroy Scholarship. So, but you apply, and it's not a hard application process. My goodness, we're fundraisers. We know that it doesn't need to be that hard. So you just fill out the form, and sometimes your organization gets picked and you get your membership. The other thing I wanted to bring up, it might be on your list too, is the code of ethics. I think the thing that I'm most passionate about AFP is being on the same page in fundraising and doing ethical fundraising. I think a lot of times people aren't being unethical because they mean to. There are bad people out there that are unethical. But a lot of times organizations that do something or take a wrong turn, it's because they don't know that that's not quite fundraising or appropriate for fundraising. And so the code of ethics, signing that, I feel like when I'm working with an organization, I feel much better if I know they're a part of AFP because they've signed the AFP code of ethics. That's just my 2 cents, and I preach that a lot because there's a lot of things that seem like a great idea, and then you find out later you're not really supposed to do that.
Right.
That's not right.
Right.
Yeah. So that's another reason.
Well, and I think too that helps with the collegial part of our organization too. We're all in Northwest Arkansas. We all, probably ask some of the same donors, but but because we're AFP members and do abide by that code of ethics, it's not necessarily a competitive feeling among the various.
Earlier when I said when we get down there, that was what I was going to say. You would think that all the organizations here are out to
cutthroat.
Well, we are going to do this and we're going to do that. And most of us all link arms and realize that we can share donors. And that some donors don't fit us, but we know who to call because they are going to be passionate about that. And that is one of my favorite things is hooking the people up with the organization that's perfect for them. And AFP is more like that. It's more like a group of people. We're all in this together and let's figure out how to make it work.
We all want to make our communities a better place, period.
You mentioned the scholarship program. They also have a fellowship program.
The collective. Yeah, the collective impact collective. Collective Impact Initiative. That's what it is. Fellowship.
Impact Initiative.
So we have had a mentor program. In fact, I'm sitting next to my mentor. So as a newbie, and that was one thing that I put on here, that's so important, or one of the big things that I've gotten out of AFP is doing the mentorship my first year in fundraising, because it paired me up with someone who's been in it, a seasoned veteran,
well seasoned.
Yes. Okay. Moving on.
Spicy and well seasoned mentor.
But it's crazy how we got paired together. But anyway, we have taken that mentor program, which was a great program, and have made it into a fellowship now. And so same sort of thing where you apply as a new person. You have to have 5 years or under of development or fundraising experience. and you're paired with, someone that has more than 5 years, and you meet with them regularly, and it's all, for the mentor, it's all, volunteer time. This is just something you're passionate about. And so, you're signing up as a mentor, you are agreeing to meet with your fellow, however, so often. And it really is just to help them understand or address, issues, or, my mentee, she, went through a job change since she's been on as a, and kind of working through that. And so, but it's for a year. A lot of this is also now paired with the scholarships that we have. So these new professionals to our to AFP are getting the opportunity to go to the national conferences or to be a member. And so
I benefited from those in the early years. Before we had a chapter, I got a Chamberlain scholarship, I think, from another chapter that didn't have anybody that could go or something. I don't know how I did it. And then when we started our chapter, I got it. And even though I'd already gone, there was no one else that could go. So they awarded me another Chamberlain scholarship to go a little bit later. And it was very helpful because, as you know, it's hard to travel and pay for the conference fee and the hotel and the whole thing. Yeah.
And because we're a 5-star gold, we get additional scholarships, for our members too, which is another benefit for reaching that designation. So, but yeah, the collective impact is it's our mentor program that's just kind of involved into a fellowship. Yeah. So, and ideally we're wanting these to be our next leaders of AFP and of our chapter.
Right.
So, we were part of they have to come to ed sessions. They have to come to, have these meetings with their mentor, but then also help at National Philanthropy Day. And so they can see.
Let's touch on that too.
So we will, so they can see what that's about. And so it really is making sure that they're engaged and really encouraging them to take that next step to be on a committee to help with National Philanthropy Day or, and then eventually hopefully the board. And so. But yeah, National Philanthropy Day.
That's a deadline, like the nominations deadline. Is that coming up pretty soon?
Actually, we're just opening nominations April 1st.
Okay.
And I'm not fooling.
Okay. No, yeah. No joke.
No joke. It goes until, I should know this, mid-June, I think, is when nominations. But this is our annual event where we recognize all the amazing people in philanthropy in our area. We have various awards for youth in philanthropy. We have a volunteer award, a organization.
There's youth in philanthropy. There's like a legacy gift. Sometimes, every once in a while, the judges will have a judges special award because they think it's somebody that really that has had an impact on our sector.
Fundraising executive.
Yes, outstanding fundraising executive.
So there's about 10 or 11 categories that we have. We don't always get nominations for every category, but we encourage and you have to be a member of AFP to make a nomination to National Philanthropy for one of these awards. So, we're starting to get those starting next month, but we have a panel of judges, anonymous judges, that will come and review these awards and select the recipients every year. And we have a big party in November. Last year, it was the 40th anniversary of National Philanthropy Day. So 40 years is Ruby. So we had a big Ruby celebration and really celebrated 40 years. And that's when Reagan had made National Philanthropy Day.
So he was the president that made it an official holiday or
recognition. Yeah, exactly. So, and what I found out is, as I've gone to these various conferences, that not every chapter does anything for this. They don't recognize all the philanthropy going on in their communities. And I get that Northwest Arkansas is really special. I mean, when it comes to that.
And that's what
but it just amazes me.
And I think that when we go to the national conferences and we start figuring out that our chapter, is a bunch of rock stars, then you come back and you're just like, well, we can't ever let this down because we're being noticed on an international level.
Little Northwest Arkansas.
Because we're working so hard. I was at the first National Philanthropy Day luncheon that we threw together.
That was not 40 years ago. Because
the stories you could tell. No, not 40 years ago.
But we are this year. I mentioned earlier that this is our 25th year of our chapter. So we are recognizing that and celebrating that. 25 years is silver. So we're having a silver jubilee and we're doing a lot of fun birthday type things this year to celebrate our chapter. So anyway, it's there's more information about that on the AFP Northwest Arkansas website. And that's where you can find the nomination forms and nominate.
Yeah. And I remember the date is a little different because of Veterans Day.
It's going to be November 4th this year.
November 4th. So it's early. It's about a week early this year. So get that on your calendar. Those of you that are listening, November 4th is our big National Philanthropy Day luncheon.
And it's on a Wednesday. It's at the Fayetteville Public Library. It's a luncheon. So 11 to 1 is the time. So it's always a big event and such just a feel-good event.
And people leave and you're just so grateful for all the philanthropy that happens here in Northwest Arkansas. And there's always, I think that's the other thing that's so great. There is always someone to recognize here.
Always.
Because always. We're never going to run out of people to recognize. So I think the first thing the thing I want to say about AFP, probably the last thing we'll say about AFP is we just want you to be a part of it. If you're in a nonprofit organization or have a nonprofit organization, please, please, please take the time to come visit an educational session and fill out a scholarship form and join.
Well, in our ed sessions, you don't have to be a member to come.
No,
you just pay the session fee, which is $40 this year. But I also wanted to mention that we are having a social. It's kind of a membership social. And it's also going to be our graduation for our first year of the collective. So we're kind of combining it. And so we're hoping that people that are interested in joining will come and they can visit with some of the fellows to see how that program has benefited them and how AFP has benefited them. But that is going to be May 21st at Rendezvous Junction Brewing Company.
Oh, that's a great location too.
I didn't write down the time, but again, that'll be on our website. But so for any of you, the board will be there. So it gives you an opportunity to meet with some of the board and ask any questions.
Like a happy hour time.
Exactly.
Towards the end of the day. Okay, May 21st. Get that on your calendars and come celebrate with us, the graduates. And then it's good for us to mingle. We all haven't mingled in a while.
That's true.
It's hard when we get there for the sessions. We're all visiting, and then
we have
to say, okay, guys, we got to start this show now. Please be quiet. Okay. This podcast is called Ask Allison. The Ask Allison podcast. So I tell my guests, I like to end the episode where they get to ask me any question. Can be related to what we talked about, or it can be totally wild card. I'm not prepared is the key. So what would you like to ask me today? What is your burning question?
I got two.
Okay.
Okay.
That's fine.
And neither of which are related.
Okay. Oh, I love it.
So we have mentioned Open Avenues, formerly known as Adult Development Center, and that's where our history began. So that's an organization that's near and dear to my heart, my mom's heart. And I volunteered there a number of times. Remember the year I came back from Mexico and you were here. Yeah. Volunteered for you for a little bit. But anyway, I have so many fond memories, most of which are pretty hysterical. Is there a memory that pops into your mind that you can share?
Oh my goodness. There are so many.
I know.
So I will say one of my very first week of work. And I wasn't around a lot of people with different abilities before. And so it was all new to me. And then you knew our old building. I knew the minute I took my tour with Brenda that they needed a new building because it was just, it's just been patched. We called them natural water features where when it rained, it leaked. We called those natural water features. But my very first week, they took an office and slid off a fourth of it, which was the size of a closet, and that became my office. And I was right across from the classroom. And the classroom is where the true adult development happened.
Right.
The 6 or 7 people in that class were more severely challenged or had different abilities where they could not work in the work center with the rest of the people. Anyway, the dearest guy in that class named Anthony got on the loose and came down the hall. And Brenda, thank goodness, just happened to be walking by. But I stood up to kind of say hi to him because, I was just 100% go-getter, ready to be the favorite, So I'm like, hello. And he immediately puts me in a headlock.
Oh, gosh.
So I'm literally down, my neck is at his hip and he's squeezing my neck. And I'm like, no one said anything about this. This was not part of the job description. And so he's just grinning. And I'm saying, okay, well, here comes Brenda. And she panics because I think she's thinking, oh my goodness.
She's going to leave it. Yeah.
The first day she's in a headlock. So she tries to assist. And what happens, which none of us can believe, because she was so comfortable and familiar with all the clients.
Sure.
They adored Brenda Neal.
Yeah.
Anyway, he immediately gets her in a headlock on his other hip. So there we both are looking at each other, look like down low. And I'm looking at her like, does this happen every day? And she's thinking, she's looking at me like, I'm so sorry. Normally, this doesn't happen to me. And so we're going to, I think, then Elizabeth and Lorraine and Paula come around. And anyway, before they get there, she says, okay, he loves the Beatles. Do you know a Beatles song? So I immediately said, we all live in a yellow submarine, a yellow submarine, a yellow submarine. And she joins in and we sing Yellow Submarine. And he finally lets us both go. But good question.
I think I'm going to have to end it on that one. You can't top that. That was amazing. Many great stories.
That was literally the first week I was there.
So funny.
Because I did not, but there are so many more.
Yes.
So many more. And it is, it's a fond memory, but also it just floors me at how many we've lost, and then because it does not seem like that much time has passed.
Yeah.
But I just figured out, and I meant to say this earlier, I'm celebrating 10 years of the McElroy Group.
Oh my gosh.
March. Yeah.
Congratulations.
This March. March is almost over because this comes out April 7th. The 7th of April.
Okay.
Yeah, April 7th. And so I've already been gone for over 10 years.
Wow.
And then I was there almost 21 years. So the time has just become this, it's just crazy.
It's
just crazy. But Anthony's not with us anymore. But man, he got me that day. And then when my rescuer, the person that was supposed to save me, came in, he got her too. And all that saved us was Yellow Submarine.
I love it.
So if you ever get in a pickle, just
now I know.
Burst into sing Yellow Submarine.
I'm on it.
It helps.
Well, thank you for sharing.
You're welcome. So there's no question 2 now?
No.
That totally
can't.
wiped it out?
I can't. You can't top that. That's amazing.
Okay. Well, and you can always ask me a question because I'll be your partner for life.
Mentor for life.
It's a matter of fact that the AFP conference, we're going to be there together. That's coming up in April, at the end of April. It's going to be in San Diego this year. And so, please keep your phones on in case we need to text you. If we get into any trouble in San Diego, right. Amy and I will be there. Lorraine will be listening for Amy and I. Like I said, this episode comes out April 7th. Thank everybody for listening. Amy, thank you.
Oh, my pleasure. This has been fun.
Such a good conversation. And y'all go to the website, Arkansas Methodist Foundation of Arkansas, of Methodists of Arkansas Foundation.
What exactly? I couldn't have said it any better.
What is the official website? Not my version.
The Methodist Foundation for Arkansas.org.
And Amy McGovern. And probably her email is somewhere right on there where you can find her if you want to apply for a grant. Well, I just want to say thank you for being here. Thanks for listening. Join us next month. And just a reminder, I'm here if you need me. All you have to do is ask Allison.